All right. Who here knows anything about hardware hacking, has heard the term, or knows what it might be about? All right. Basically, some people consider hardware hacking and do-it-yourself projects to be similar. Sometimes they are. Most people consider hardware hacking taking something that was intended for one purpose and using it for another that it was not intended for, and people actually took great lengths to make it impossible, they thought, for you to do so. For instance, CVS disposable digital camcorders. $30. You buy them. You take 20 minutes of video. You return them with no refund. You pay them additional $15 for a nice DVD, and sometimes a rush fee to get it delivered the same day. So usually you end up spending about $50 to $60 for a 20-minute DVD, and some people think this is a really good deal. And you look at the top of the camcorder, and it says, must be returned to CVS Photo Center for DVD. Cannot be connected to a TV or computer. Taurus-phesis is the term that I'm using for this. Basically, who here has an Xbox 360? Who still has their original Xbox? All right. Who still uses their original Xbox? Who uses it for something besides playing their original Xbox games? What do you use yours for? Media Center. And you? Linux. All right. Anyone else? Media Center? Oh, Paperweight. Yes, very good. Very good use. Who has ever used MSN TV2 or the new version of Web TV? Yeah, I didn't think so. They sold a lot of these things for, $200, $150. They kept breaking the price down until they couldn't sell them in the stores. They returned them, and then the secondhand outlets got them, tried to sell them for $50, $60. Nobody could do it. Sometimes you find one on eBay for a penny, and they charge you $20 shipping. Sometimes you find a nice store in town like Essex. Yes, I want a discount. And you get them for $20 straight away. And basically, it connects you to the internet with a modem or with your Ethernet connection, and it connects to your TV so you don't have to have a monitor. Very small, very lightweight, comes with a wireless keyboard, wireless remote controller mouse, and Windows Media Edition. Yeah. Basically, let's see, where shall we start? Let's play with the CVS camera first. Wow, I hate these slow processors. Basically, this is what they look like. You can leave the stickers on, tear the stickers off, paint them a different color like Attila has. It says that you cannot connect it to a computer. But as soon as you take it back to the store, well, they connect it to their computer, dump the images, give you a DVD. Basically, they put it in another box, and they sell it to somebody else for $30. So you're pretty much... Yeah, basically, when the storm hit 2 nights ago, my main system crashed, and I've been using this little piece of crap $2 laptop. Yes, it cost $2. My mother found it at a garage sale. Love you, Mommy. And they were selling it because it could not boot up. Picking and choosing images. Basically, it wouldn't boot up because the power cord was broken, and they just had it shoved in the hole. So somebody looked at it and said, I I bet I know somebody that can fix that. So they paid $2 for it, and, well, the power cord I've got for it now is messed up, so that's why it took me a little while to get the presentation going, and now I'm using this on a Caruso processor, which is kind of slow. Anyway, yeah, here's the cannot be connected to a TV or a computer. Well, we're going to prove that wrong. Skipping through, you can just tear the back panel off to get to the batteries. Some people have actually hacked theirs so that the batteries are rechargeable and they have a charging station in the side. Or in the top end, after you tear the sticker off, you notice this nice little computer connector, which is interesting. You know, you're not really sure exactly what it does until a few people on the internet started looking at the parts after they took theirs apart and said, you know, that looks like a USB connector on the chip there, but that output is just wrong. So they just took a Palm Pilot charger cradle interface, took a parallel printer, cut the port so it would fit, and hot glued it together, and voila, they have a way of docking it with their computer, and it shows up as an external drive, and it calls itself a Saturn. Now, of course, it's locked. Well, that didn't take them long to figure out either. Yeah, it's a much better picture. I meant to delete that last one. And that one. Basically, you can tell which version of the camera you have by using what's called the nerve pinch. You use the record and delete buttons. You hold them down when you press the power button. And when it comes on, it tells you which version of the firmware you have, what version of the motherboard you have inside, and basically tells you which way you need to crack it, which is very useful. Basically, you take the thing apart. It's a pain to get this thing apart because I have a safety latch in it. You're supposed to use like a pencil and pull the little piece down at the bottom, and then there's a safety piece that keeps the batteries from falling out on the inside, but once it's closed, there's no way for them to fall out, so I just take this thing and throw it away. Once that's taken apart, the safety latch on the bottom on the inside looks like this. There's a little spring at the bottom you can see here, and basically that's just soft plastic, and you can tear that off by hand. Right here you see where you put the pencil in that actually relieves that little spring, but you know, it's more fun to just rip the thing apart by brute force because they didn't want you to. Once you've got it taken apart, you have access to the board. You have the speaker for listening to your playback here. You've got a cute little monitor and, of course, your little buttons. There is a bit of a problem with wind, so people have basically unscrewed the board, pulled it up, and where the microphone is in the front, they tear apart an old pair of headphones to make a windscreen, and they shove it in the hole, and basically you hear no more wind. Wow, that took a lot of thought. Basically, I took all the screws out of mine so I could pop it apart to make changes rapidly, and I just left the 2 screws in the back. Like I said, my system crashed and I lost the entire presentation, so basically we spent 4 hours last night doing this. And you can barely see because, you know, the camera wasn't very good quality, the connectors there and up here. And also on the side, since this isn't a very good USB connector and I really don't like the charging cradles, you can go in after you cut a nice hole in the side to make room. I was in a hurry. You get your own USB extender that has a female plug in the side. You solder the wires in the bottom and then solder them into the appropriate place on the connector on top. And basically leave the female connector sticking out the side, which pretty much looks like this, and you can just connect it straight to your computer. And oh wait, that goes against everything it said on the label. So forget I said that because that would never happen. It's impossible, and the pictures weren't very clear, so I went ahead for anyone that wanted to do it, the little wiring diagram with little soldered droplets and everything, because I was tired and getting a little obsessive compulsive. Anyway, that's back to the original picture. Some people have taken the buttons off the back, wired in a couple of extenders to like a toggle switch or something so they can have it on their hip while they've got the camera duct taped to their bike helmet or whatever else they're using it for, because, well, they're cheap. They're $30, and sometimes you can find them on sale for $10. Some of them have a $10 coupon in the back, which you can turn around and use again for another one that's on sale, and usually get them for $10, unless there's a rebate or they're having a promotion where if you buy any of their camera items, you get 10%, or you get $10 on your certificate, your excuse me, I didn't sleep last night, on your receipt that you can turn around, and basically the cameras, once you get them in a row like that, using the coupons inside, using the coupons on your receipt, getting them on sale, they become free. And, well, that's a lot better than $30 and then never using it again until you buy another one for $30. Free is always better, in my opinion. It's supposedly 20 minutes, and the resolution was 420 by 200, but people found out the CCD is actually capable of 640 by 480, but then it reduces the recording time to 5 minutes, and that's not really great for, just a disposable camcorder, but, it's light, it's cheap, you can use it for whatever you want. People put them on their model rockets and shoot them into the sky, or they use them on remote control helicopters. There's not a transmitter, so you can't see what you're doing until you've landed. One guy actually stuffed his in an empty peanut butter jar and shot it out of a potato gun. The camera, of course, was destroyed, but I do believe he was able to desolder the chip and put it in another one and actually download his pictures after that. And that's how the original person actually figured out how this worked. He found out that the memory card was the same as Smart Media, and he had a reader for something else. So in that case, couldn't you make an external memory mod to it? Yes, and they have. They've got them so you can put an XD card or a secure digital or whatever it was they were using and slide it in and out, but it was only 128 meg. Now, the thing is, the company said, our camera can't be hacked, and, well, that's been proven wrong time and time again. They also said even if you get the information out of the camera, it's not usable because we have a special proprietary format that no one will be able to crack. Has anyone here ever heard of XVID? Yeah, I don't have anything that'll play those videos. I'm sorry. They got me on that one. I wasted all my money. All right. Man, you got too many icons on the side of this thing. Oh, also, some of the newer models have a zoom lens. Actually, people in the hacking forums were adding zoom lenses to them, and the company decided, hey, that's a really good idea, and they started doing it. You want to get the model with the red sticker on the front, not the blue one. The blue one, well, the blue sticker actually has a little countermeasure they install that basically, when the hacking process done by a program called Ops is trying to access the camera, it sends a little pulse that blocks the signal. Well, basically, they're using all the equipment that was on board already, and it's so polite and it obeys traffic laws. If it sees another signal in its way, it will pause and stop for it to finish. But they never anticipated that happening, so there was no follow-up to it. So once you stop the signal, it never gets through. So you put a jumper wire between your positive battery terminal, I believe, and one of the pins next to the top chip. And basically, after it beeps, you have like a second and a half to touch it, and it sees a signal coming through because there's an electrical pulse, and it stops. and basically the signal that goes through is blank. Now, they wanted to make sure nobody could hack this and reprogram it, so what they did is at the end of each session when you turn it off, it basically copies the signal that it's using back into flash memory. So basically it copied the blank signal back, and both copies are now blank, so next time you turn it on, you don't have to use the jumper wire. It's permanently opened. But that does require taking it apart a little bit extra. Now, the red stickers, you don't have to do that, and one of the newer ones that has the red sticker on the label actually has a red tab coming down from the battery cover, I guess to save the battery so they're not in use at all during shipping. But the one that has the red tag on the bottom is the one that has the zoom lens. And they're all the same price, so you might as well just get that one. If you go to the website, you'll see that there are different, I'll give you the links to some websites here in a minute. Basically, on the very bottom where the little safety tab was, you can tell what model it is, and when you go into the forums, you can tell them what model you have, and, you know, basically they can help you with that particular one, or if you do the nerve pinch, then you can tell them, you know, what BIOS version you're using, and they can say, oh, well, they did a, you know, some update to that version, and basically here's how you defeat it, because it usually doesn't take more than a few days for someone to figure it out. The battery life, they said, is 100 minutes, but now the newer ones are claiming to have longer battery life and improved video quality. So I have no clue. Attila uses 1.7 volt batteries instead of 1.5 in his, and he basically has drilled holes in the front. Can you bring that up here? Basically, some people, instead of having the female USB connector sticking out of the side, actually attach a cable to it so you lose your cable. And he went ahead and painted his blue. And also put a thumb switch on the side and a few LEDs so you can light up whatever you're looking at. Some people have ripped the lens off the front and used a viewfinder from any other disposable camera, and it basically turns it into a widescreen camera. Once you've taken it apart, actually I tore the tab off the bottom of this one to make it easier to disassemble again. The safety cover on the lens can pop off. Basically, once you pop the safety cover on the lens off, it comes off with the lens on it. And the lens actually has a little green piece of glass on it that's slightly tinted. That's because all CCDs are more sensitive to infrared light than they are standard light. So you put the tiny green lens on it, and it blocks the infrared from coming in, and it gives you a normal light camera. Ooh, I said the N word. Never say normal. Basically, if you remove the green lens and put it back on, you now have an infrared-capable camera. And, you know, that usually costs more because it's special equipment. But, no, don't let them lie to you anymore. Basically, once you remove that, you will be a little bit more sensitive to red. You will see splotches and everything. So if you're just going to use it at night, that's fine. But during the daytime, the color is extremely washed out. If you want to take just infrared pictures, you can go spend $30 or $40 on the special lenses that block out the red, the blue, and the green light. But some people are actually using film negatives that have been developed that's just a blank picture, and you know that exposes the red, the blue, and the green, but the infrared is still able to pass through this film, so you just cut out a small little piece. And a few people discovered this a few years ago with Sony camcorders, and I hear a few chuckles from the back, and they're like, oh yeah, that's fun, that's fun. Ooh, I hope they don't know what I'm laughing about. Well, you're busted. Everybody just heard you laugh, and now I'm going to tell them why you were laughing. Basically, the infrared has a little bit of a narrower beam, basically. You know, everybody knows, you know, the story behind the Blu-ray versus the red laser, you know, the distance in the beam, you know, that it's smaller. Well, not the distance, you know, the width. I can't speak English today. Anyway, imagine you had a coat hanger, and you bent it into a lightning bolt shape, and each of the arcs was about a foot tall. And you had a chain link fence about 3 inches in front of your house, and you just tossed it like a javelin. Well, it would hit the fence, and it would bounce back. There's no way in hell that coat hanger is going through that fence to hit the house. But if you straighten it out, instead of regular light, you're straightening it out to infrared, it goes through the fence and hits the house about 99.999% of the time. Every once in a while, it will hit the fence and bounce back, and everybody's like, what is he talking about? Well, just imagine you're walking around in the daylight on the beach. People are like walking around, and you're sitting there wearing your swimsuit or whatever you're wearing, and they're like looking at you with these really weird googly eyes, and it's like, ooh, ooh, and you're like, what are they looking at? Well, imagine that chain link fence was like cotton cloth or nylon or whatever you happen to be wearing, and the brick wall was your clothing. Basically, the infrared light is able to penetrate through the cloth before it reflects back, and people were using this to basically take nude pictures of other people without their knowledge. I mean, in the mall, on the beach, you know, just wherever. And people were like, oh, yeah, the Sony cameras, you know, they've got the night shot, but you can turn it on during the daytime. And, you know, people were scrambling all over themselves trying to buy them, and Sony was just amazed that they were selling so many cameras, and they sold out, and people started calling Sony, and they were emailing them. They wanted the X-ray camera, and Sony had no idea what they were talking about. Sony spent a couple of days online researching, trying to figure out what was going on, and then they figured it out, and they pulled them all off the shelves, and they put a safety switch on them that had a little CDS cell that said, okay, there's daylight, so we're not going to allow that feature now. Well, people just put a piece of tape over the top, and the cameras sold out again. There are other uses for infrared photography. You know, basically, you could take two of these things and strap them to a pair of safety goggles you got at Deals or Dollar Tree or whatever you have in your neighborhood, and basically make yourself for, you know, $30 to $60 a decent pair of night vision goggles that, you know, you'd pay like $150 for a monocular night vision at Walmart and think you were getting a good deal. Well, I mean, you made this one yourself, and everybody's like, dude, what is that? Anyway, people have cracked the BIOS. They're able to put their own startup and shutdown screens in instead of saying, you know, now closing camera, or, you know, some of them now say return to CVS immediately, and it's like, you know, some people have, you know, property of, so if somebody finds your camera and turns it on, you know, there's your name and phone number or whatever, but other people have like the little Calvin and Hobbes, their little favorite characters, just whatever. You can completely personalize them, and you can also change the startup and shutdown sounds and any of the sounds it makes while you're in normal operation. Oh, I said the N-word again. Anyway, with the USB connector, they've also found out now that you can use it for a zip, well, just any kind of a storage drive. You can hook it up as long as it's only 128 meg. It works fine. You can also use it as a webcam. When it's hooked up as a webcam, it doesn't automatically shut off after not using it for 2 minutes like it does when you're running it around, you know, without, because they basically don't want to run your battery down, because then you'll bring it back to CVS. It's like, this doesn't work, I want another one, because it basically does say that if it doesn't work, or if you're dissatisfied for any reason, you can bring it back. And that any reason does include if you start it up with the nerve pinch and notice that it's not a number that's currently crackable. You just take it back and say, I don't like this one, I want another one, it's not working for me. They don't ask a question, they just give you another one, and then you do the nerve pinch in the parking lot. It's like, oh crap, this isn't the right one either. And you can do it all day, and basically it's written there, and it says for any reason. And a lot of people are actually just going in and saying, hey, I want to crack this, and the people at CVS are like, I don't care, how can I help? You know, so, well, you take that out of the package and see if this is the right one. They're like, yeah, sure, why not? Anyway, there's like a billion things you can do with this. I mean, it's really light once you take it apart. So you can put it on your remote control helicopter. You can put it in like a statue on your front porch with a solar it's you can do anything with it. And yes.
How much memory can it address?
Okay, we have thought about that before, and people have talked about, maybe a gig or two, but desoldering the chip from the board is a pain. The guy that originally cracked it, he did it a couple of times and said, there's got to be an easier way to do this, and that's why he finally put the socket on so he could use a memory card. Nobody has, as far as I know, I haven't been on the forum in a while. I've just been cutting them apart and rebuilding them. But people were a while back saying that they weren't able to access the BIOS and able to address more memory, but now I have heard reports, I haven't confirmed them, that some people are adding more memory to them. You just have to have the right size chip. Everything has to be perfect, but I don't know. Anyway, any other questions about the CVS camera before I move on? Yes. Right, there is a special program called OPS that's needed to get past some of the protection. Actually, now they have cracked it. There's a challenge and response key set, and somebody at the company left their FTP server open one night, and someone downloaded the challenge response program, and it took them a couple hours to figure out how the key sequencing worked. So they changed their key sequencing with the new ones and basically released it with a new challenge and response set, but somebody figured out, hey, if I go ahead and use the jumper wire to flash this thing again, I can get into it, and then once I'm into it, I can actually take the BIOS from an older camera and reapply it to this one, and then it works again. And there have been reports of people at CVS unlocking the camera and handing them back to you just because you ask. But, of course, I'm not giving any names, and I don't know who they were. Yes? Not on here right now, but run on up here real quick. And okay. Take a look, hit the playback button, it'll play back the last one that was made, and this is me and some friends blowing things up last 4th of July, and no, it wasn't inside this county where fireworks are illegal, it was in another county where they're perfectly legal. Yes, hit the playback button. Oh, that's the new one, I'm sorry. Yeah, I haven't, well, actually, if you press record, and just take a picture and press record again when you're done, and then you hit playback. It will only play back the last video you recorded, and that's something that people were working on now that they've got into the BIOS. They're working on the key combinations. When you press delete, it will delete the video. It'll ask you to press delete again to delete it to confirm, but then we'll talk more about that afterwards if anybody has more questions. Moving along, the Xbox. Basically, most people think, oh, I need a mod chip to do this and that, and, well, everybody was talking about buffer overruns and everything earlier, and people are nodding their heads like, yeah, that sounds really cool. Well, what is that? Well, basically, I drew a picture and, made it as simple as possible. Basically, consider this the memory sector of your Xbox. Up here you have stuff. I'm not going to give you hex code or anything. I'm just going to make it simple. It's stuff. Down here you have a limited save game space for anything you do during your game that's saved. And then you have the actual game program that loads from the disk into memory. Then you've got the system programs and system settings and more stuff and other stuff down here. And basically, your save game is only supposed to be this big. Now, on certain games like Mech Assault, the original edition, not the Game of the Year edition and not the Platinum edition, because those have been fixed because they got a little ticked off. There was a problem with the buffer overrun. Basically, if you put something that was too big in the spot, it would still fit, and it would keep filling up, and it would overwrite the game program, so you could use whatever program you put on there, the system programs, the system settings, and basically, if you put in something this big, it would actually fit, and it would just overwrite the rest of the Xbox programs with, like, opening up an FTP server, because, yes, the Xbox has an Ethernet port in the back. Basically, it opens up the LAN for read and write access. It opens up the firewall so you can get into it. It sets the username and password to Xbox and allows you to write to the hard drive, including sectors that usually are protected by the game, including the sectors during the startup menu, right before it goes to the dashboard when it loads your fonts. Basically, they put a program in the font file that you can either change your dashboard or add things to your dashboard, including, maybe Linux or Media Center, or just whatever you want at that point. And actually, let me try to hook this up real quick. A lot of people don't know that the connectors on the front of the Xbox, they're weird. They have 5 ports, but that actually is USB. It's a USB connector. The thing is, the middle wire, the yellow one, once you cut it open, is for the screen sync with the light gun, so it knows what you're shooting at. Basically, hey, Attila, you want to come up here and help me plug some of this stuff in real quick? Basically, once you have the ability to realize, it's like, hey, this is just USB. So these little save game cartridges that come with it that plug into this USB controller, well, maybe they're USB too. So basically, you go out and get a $1 extension cord for your Xbox, and you get an extension cord for a USB cable, and you splice it and make yourself a nice little Y cable or an X cable. If you make an X cable, you can actually plug the controller into your computer and use it as a USB joystick. Otherwise, you just use like this little Lexar jump drive I've got right here. It was on the compatibility list. Some work, some don't. 128 meg, you can get them on like Tiger Direct. You could get them on M-Wave or Newegg or whichever one you're using. It's whichever one you like. Can you untangle this? And we can plug this into the projector real quick instead of what I'm using now. Okay. Do we have a RCA connector over on the side, or does it have to go over there? All right, take this over there and hook it up. And you'll need a joystick, because the joystick actually doubles as the mouse when you're using it. Right. Basically, the Microsoft MSN TV2 box, it's based on a motherboard that used to be a laptop, and they program them in the factory with an interface that basically looks like the other end of a floppy connector on the motherboard, and something that looks like a serial port on the other end, and there's a nice little chip, and it's the exact same circuit that they use for hacking your PSP. Now, the company that makes the chip has a website, and you can go to their website, and you can't even really order anything without them asking you, would you like a sample of our merchandise? So you're like, okay, sure. You put in your name, and they say, how many would you consider using in the next few years? And you say, oh, well, I mean, if I can get my hands on a bunch of these for $20 and sell them for $60, then, yeah, I'll take 40 of those things. And they're like, well, we'll just send you some samples to begin with, and then you can decide if you want to buy them. So, I mean, they make you get them for free. They won't let you buy them. And it costs another $3 in capacitors from Radio Shack, if the people at Radio Shack actually know what capacitors are, and that really bothers me when they don't. Basically, yeah, it hooks up to your TV. Once you've taken the card out, it boots up from a compact flash card, and you take off Windows CE, you put on Linux, and you now have a Linux box that connects to your TV and runs off 12 volts so you can use it in your car. Now, basically, oh yeah, it's been unplugged for a while, so it reset itself. Go ahead and just accept the time and date as is and go ahead and hit A. Yeah, sometimes the Xbox will have a little bit of a problem when it's unplugged because the capacitor inside for storing the time isn't really that big. Usually you get about 2 hours. You can desolder that and solder in another one that, you know, has a few more farads, like some of the ones they use for like the video games at the arcades. They're a little bit bigger, but they will fit, or you can just use, you know, a jumper lead. And some people have got theirs to work for up to 2 weeks unplugged without losing any information. Here, use this instead of the Y cable. Just snap that in, snap the other one out. It has a little trouble sometimes because I've kept it in the box and, you know, it's just gotten a little rough. Basically, your dashboard originally has the memory, the music. It has Xbox Live and it has settings, but well, Xbox Live isn't really useful because they just charge you for it, and there's something called the game tunnel. Basically, when you put the game tunnel on your computer and connect your Xbox to the network, the game tunnel connects your computer to other computers, and it's just like Xbox Live, but it's free, and you're not cracking into their system, so they can't sue you. Anyway, go ahead and choose. That's what used to be Xbox Live is now Linux. Go ahead and press the A button. And, oh, wow, all your Microsoft programming disappeared, and, oh, there's a happy little penguin up there now. How did that happen? But, yeah, lots of people apparently now are using their Xbox for the exact same thing. Some people are using it for Media Center, which is similar to the front end for Myth TV or, you know, Microsoft Media Center. But it does take a little while to load. Some people are using Darwin, which is a version of BSD, which is put out by Apple Computer that's made specifically for PCs. And then after they get the Apple operating system on their Xbox, they're actually taking their Tiger CDs, or whichever version of it they're using, and they're putting some of the programs in, and they're filling in the gaps with something called Pair PC, and basically it turns into OS X for the Xbox. It is possible to upgrade from the 733 megahertz processor to a 1.4, but it requires a factory to do it. You can't just do it yourself, although you can upgrade the 64 meg to 128 or 256 meg. It costs $32 for the memory. You can solder it onto the board yourself. It doesn't just snap in, but it's relatively simple. Like I said, it does take a minute to boot up, but we'll just go ahead and let that finish. I'm pretty much done. Does anybody have any other questions about anything? Yes. They were on my system when it crashed the other night, but I will, if you come up to the desk here in a minute, or if somebody else is speaking, we can go to the back, or you can meet me afterwards, and anybody else that needs the links, I will provide you whatever you need. Any other questions? Yes. I can't hear a word you're saying. I believe it's in the hardware. If it was software, then it wouldn't be too hard to crack. Anyone else? Yes, it comes with an adapter that goes from 120 volts or 115 to 12 volts. So it just has a big power pack that sits externally that you don't even have to use. You can just basically plug it into a 12-volt source, and it will work in your car. And it has a TV output. The Xbox also has a TV output. The first generation Xboxes only had limited resolution. After that, they did support HD TV. And then one more version came out, but it was harder to crack the dashboard, so people used the second to the last version. Iron Geek, did you have a question? Oh, okay, just looking. Anyone else? Any questions? Oh, yeah, Sabian is Debian-based Linux. Oh, you had a question? Oh, yes, you can use keyboard, mouse as long as they're USB. Or you can get one of the USB adapters that go to the PS2 mouse or keyboard, and they work just fine. Any other questions? Alrighty. Go home and tear everything apart you have and build something else out of it.